So when I finished doing the first board for the second part of the review after that crazy 13-game action from yesterday around MLS, I forgot to put the DC United versus Nashville SC game in the first board because that game actually took place right after the Inter Miami versus Red Bulls game, and I replaced it with this one instead. So gotta keep in mind when I do the time stamp that the DC United versus Nashville game is the 5th game that I of course talk about, instead of it should be the 3rd game that I of course talk about. And I always, when I do these review and put down each of these games, I always put them in the order of the game kicked off the earliest to the game that kicks off the latest, because then when I do the timestamp for these video, I can just go to the league website where they have all the games in chronological order in terms of the earliest kickoff to the latest kickoff, and it would be much easier to do that. But anyway, let's take a look at these last 7 games that happened from yesterday action, and we start off with the game that I was supposed to talk about yesterday, but I decided to move it today because it was a boring 0-0 draw between Cincinnati and the Philadelphia Union. Actually, I take it back. It wasn't really that boring if you did not have to sit through what happened in the first half, because yeah, that was really painful to watch with the way that neither team looked like they were going to really attack whatsoever, and that for the first half, the only chance we had was Cascadia putting a 30-yard shot wide, and it wasn't even close to being on target. But other than that, yeah, it was a very snooze-fest first half. Now, in the second half, things did kind of get a little bit more interesting, and this is also kind of the half that you think maybe FC Cincinnati should have won this game. And one of the bigger chances they had was also from Jurgen Cascadia, who, you know, he's snake bit this season when you realize that he missed another sitter in this game, this time from 6 yards out, and that point that keep the game at 0-0. Now Philly did had a decent chance in the 77th minute, and really it isn't just a decent chance, it was really the only chance that they had in this entire game, when Santos of course hits the post. But then 11 minutes later, it looked like Waston might have headed Cincinnati the opening goal and potentially the winner, but Jose Martinez with some heroic clearance off the line to keep this one at 0-0 before Andre Blake had to make sure that FC Cincinnati does not steal one late in this game, as he was able to rob Gel really at the very last minute of the game. And in the end, it was a 0-0 draw between Cincinnati versus the Union, and the shots in this game, only 13 shots for both teams combined, 7 shots for Cincinnati, 6 on the Union, but only 1 shot on goal for either of these teams, so that both goalkeepers didn't really have to work very much in this game, and that 1 shot on goal came literally in the last minute of the game from FC Cincinnati. Both teams had 4 shots off target, 2 shots that was blocked. Possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession. And, you know, I guess the reason why the Union didn't look sharp in this game is because of the short rest that they had. And I'm kind of surprised that Jim Curtin didn't really go with a relatively weak squad and pretty much put almost the same squad that play on Sunday game against the Montreal Impact. But you can clearly see that they were definitely very tired coming into this game after only have 3 days to recover from that game against the Impact on Sunday. And for FC Cincinnati, yeah, this is a Cincinnati special. I mean, I think this is, what, the 4th straight home game that they, of course, got a 0-0 draw, which, you know, it's not the worst thing to get a 0-0 draw at home, because at least you get a point out of that game, and also you're able to keep the opposition without scoring goals. But having said that, it's getting to a point that I'm pretty sure Cincinnati fans are not happy the fact that they're seeing their team having so many 0-0 draw, and if they keep continuing like this, they might even break the record for the most 0-0 draw in an MLS regular season. And that, again, this is one of the many games where they could have potentially got at least 1 goal of this game if their attacker was actually in form and not snake bit as it has seen through these last couple of games. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is Inter Miami and the Red Bulls. So, you know, back in the preview, I basically asked Inter Miami this question. After they got that huge win against Atlanta, and that it was a historical win for them as they got their first away win, Can they follow that up in the next game? Well, after this one, not only the fact that it was a resounding no, but this was really the first time that Inter Miami have got blown out in a game, and that this is the first time they actually gave up the most goal in their entire season and their franchise history. And in the first half, 9 minutes into this game, the Red Bulls almost got the opening goal when Jurgensen hit the post as he went through on goal, and that the Red Bulls were really coming out of this game strong. And eventually they did rewarded with a goal because of that, after Igbo was able to score on the penalty to give the Red Bulls a 1-0 lead. Of all players, Matt Tweedy would be the one that made a mistake by bringing down Stroh in the box that gave the Red Bulls the penalty, which again, Igbo was able to put it away and give the Red Bulls a 1-0 lead up to that point. And again, the Red Bulls really dominate early of this game, but as the game continued to go, Miami did start to kind of come back into this game and started to really test the Red Bulls in terms of their back line. Agudelo had a chance to potentially equalize in the 31st minute, and probably should have, because he had a 4-yard header that unfortunately just went wide. But he did redeem himself just 8 minutes later after he scored from Pellegrini and Lewis Morgan to tie the game up at 1 apiece. I want to also mention the fact that there was an owl spotted during the first half, and it came around the 34 minutes. So yeah, now we basically have seen another animal species that makes the pitch around MLS, because I know before there were times where we had cats and also oh god, I forgot what was the other thing. I think it was a goose that been on one of the RSL game where he was basically on the pitch of Rio Tinto, and basically RSL used that as kind of a rally cry. And it seemed like the Red Bulls, they used the owl as the rally cry in this game, because in the second half, like the first half, they came out strong and they were rewarded with that effort when Brian White was able to score from Fernandez and Valla to make it 2-1 in favor of the Red Bulls. Again, like the first half, Red Bulls start out strong, but Miami eventually started to crawl their way back into the game. The only difference is that this time the Red Bulls this time Miami weren't able to get that goal because they didn't have some good finishing. And also, I just realized I wrote second half twice in this game. I mean, it kind of felt like this game was played into 4 parts, where Red Bulls dominate early and then Miami kind of got back into the game, and then as the second half goes, Red Bulls got better again. But as we get maybe about 15 minutes into the second half, that's when Miami basically switched the pendulum in terms of momentum and had the chance to equalize. But eventually the Red Bulls put this game away, and they put it away in the 85th minute when Ben Mines was able to score to make it 3-1 in favor of the Red Bulls. Then it was 4-1 in favor of the Red Bulls when Danny Royer was able to score from Caceres Jr. to pretty much put the icing on the cake and hand Inter Miami their first blowout loss in their MLS franchise history. Shots in this game, 14 shots compared to 10 that the Red Bulls had, 4 shots on goal compared to 5 that the Red Bulls had, 8 shots off target compared to 5 that the Red Bulls had, 2 shots that was blocked compared to none that the Red Bulls had, and possession-wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession that the Red Bulls had. And, you know, even though Inter Miami got blown out in this game, and people will say that this is easily one of their worst, if not their worst game this season, I don't think they play badly in this one. The only problem that they had in this game is that they weren't able to put away their chances, and the defense, yeah, this was probably right around the worst defensive display that they have shown this season. And it's kind of surprising the fact that the worst defensive display would come from a Red Bulls team that scored actually the most goal of the season after this one, and a team that didn't even score more than 2 goals ever since the opening day matchup against FC Cincinnati. And, you know, for the Red Bulls, it's a good win for them, but as I said with Miami when I did with the preview, can they follow that up in the very next game? And I also heard the Red Bulls are potentially going to hire a head coach coming out of England, and I think it was that Barnsley head coach that forgot what exactly his name is, but later tonight when I do the news of the week video, I of course will talk more about that. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is this game. So I actually didn't watch the majority part of this game, mainly because there was so many games that was kind of taking place that I just couldn't be asked to kind of watch the Quakes potentially get demolished again by the Rapids. But the other reason why I couldn't watch majority of this game is that it turns out our local broadcasts are also kind of tired of the fact that the Quakes are being a bit of a disgrace to the Bay Area and kind of being a dumpster fire. So they decided to not show them the game on the main channel, but instead relegate them into the alternative channel, which unfortunately my streaming device that I had don't have the alternative channel, and since I can't watch it on ESPN Plus because it's blacked out, yeah, that means I have to go into a knockoff stream, and that I did watch the knockoff stream for a bit until it decided to kind of act up and didn't really work whatsoever, and that's when I kind of just stopped watching for the rest of the game. And that I think I only watched like 1/3 of this game and had to kind of go into the condensed highlight of what actually happened in this game. And that a quick summary of what happened in this game is that Colorado take advantage of their free wins of the season, and also take advantage of the fact that this is also a game that can help their goal differential and help their problems in terms of scoring goals by putting a 5-0 thrashing of the San Jose Earthquakes. Now, in the first half, Vega did make a good save on Shinishiki as he was able to push that one onto the post before he would rob Shinishiki again in the 19th minute, but it looked like it was inevitable that Colorado was going to get that opening goal, which happened in the 31st minute when Acosta was able to score for the opening goal, or that's what we thought that it was going to happen until they actually look at VAR. And originally I didn't know what they were looking for, but apparently they kind of took a very long look to see whether or not if Jack Price was in an offside position on the attacking sequence, and that on the highlights which they showed the Rapids broadcast, they didn't really show a really good angle whether or not if that was offside or not, but referee says that it was offside and the goal was disallowed for the Rapids. But you know, as much as they got that goal disallowed, I still feel like it was a matter of time before the Rapids was going to get the opening goal, and it came just 4 minutes later when Cole Bassett was able to score from Jack Price. No one was marking Bassett in the box, and you want to know why I complain about this Quakes defense and why they are not only the worst defense in the league, but they're kind of like a high school level defense. Like, how in the world does one of the hottest goals scored from the Colorado Rapids gets completely unmarked in the box? It's just criminal in terms of this defense. And in the second half, again, the Rapids were in complete control of this game, and they got the second goal when Jonathan Lewis scored from Kellen Acosta and Jack Price. Yarbrough didn't make a great save on Houston as he had a chance to score from about four yards out. And you know, knowing the fact that the Quakes not only have defensive problem, but that they also can't finish and have a lot of their attacker low in confidence in terms of scoring goals, it was not a big surprise when I see Houston basically hits it straight into the face of Yarbrough, and that even though if that goal of course went in, you know, and that maybe some will say that it gives a little bit hope that the Quakes can come back into this game. Nah, the Rapids were going to continue to steamroll the Quakes, and that steamroll happened in the 70th minute when Tommy Thompson scores an own goal after a dangerous cross from Jack Price. Then Mosqueda scores from Austin Trusty, and this is when you can start to see the Quakes are pretty much just checked out in this game, and they didn't even want to be there anymore. Before Shinishiki would score from Cole Bassett in the 84th minute, so Bassett had a very decent night with a goal and an assist, and in the end, it was a 5-0 result in favor of the Colorado Rapids. Shots in this game, 16 shots compared to 10 that the Quakes had, 8 shots on goal compared to 4 that the Quakes had, 5 shots off target compared to 3 that the Quakes had. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that the Quakes had in this game. And if you expect me to do another spiel and another rant about this Quakes team after another embarrassing result, I'm not going to do that, because I'm basically just going to repeat myself again, and that the only thing I'm stunned with this Quakes team right now is how in the world is there no change changes that has made in this team. Like, this team, this is the 5th time this season that they have conceded more than 5th goal, which is now already an MLS record, and it's hard to believe that they did that in just 13 games. Like, I've seen bad teams in MLS. Heck, I even seen 2018 level of badness from this Quakes team. But this is just getting to a point where this looks even worse than what happened in 2018. Because at least in 2018, we weren't just getting blown out game after game and didn't start thinking about maybe there's changes to need to make. Right now, we're basically just doing the same thing. And as the old saying goes, and just kind of use a cliche, Quakes are just doing the definition of insanity right now, and just expect to do something that clearly is not working, and they just continue to do it, and it just feels like it's the same result whatsoever. So, yeah, as much as I can complain, and as much as I know fans are have enough of this team and getting upset about this team just being a laughing stock of the league for the past couple of games, there's really not much I can say about this team other than the fact that change clearly need to be made in this team, and it has to do sooner or later before I feel like the league eventually going to have to step in and trying to do something too. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be RSL versus the Galaxy, and boy did RSL needed this win. I mean, after these last couple of games of how bad things have got, they picked up a massive win in this one against the Galaxy. Although the Galaxy looked like they were the better team early in this game. Legit had a half volley from 12 yards out that fortunately just missed wide before Pavone shot hits the post, and it looked like the Galaxy were potentially going to get the opening goal. But then after the 25th minute mark, or really after the 27th minute mark, where there was a controversial moment where there was no penalty kick call on Depew after he looked like he dragged down Herrera down in the box. This is when the momentum, of course, changed, and this is when RSL basically start to woke up, and they would never let the control of this game out of their hands for the rest of the game. And in terms of this controversial call, yeah, I feel like Depew got away with this one too. I feel like that should have been a penalty, because you can clearly see that he, of course, dragged that Herrera there in the box, but the Galaxy got very lucky, the fact that this one was not a penalty. But as I said, for the rest of the game, RSL really controlled this one and looked like they were the one to get the opening goal. Although in the second half and at the hour mark, Chicharito, of course, did look like he scored the opening goal, but unfortunately the flag was already up and that it was disallowed for offside before RSL would get their moment to score the opening goal, and this time they would get a penalty after Bingham, of course, brought down Justin Merrill, who was through on goal. And this time, there is no doubt that this is a stone cold penalty. I mean, Bingham clearly just took out Merrill, didn't even get the ball when he did that. Just a Class A penalty that given to RSL during that point, which Rusnak was able to bury that one in. Although Bingham did got a touch to that, Rusnak just put enough power and enough kind of area where where no goalkeeper could potentially save that from the penalty spot. So RSL had a 1-0 lead, but Galaxy almost equalized just a minute later, and RSL just almost fell into the victim of the fact that you're always the most vulnerable when you score a goal, as Pavone just hits it wide after he did kind of a Johan Cruyff kind of turn and trying to cut back and puts it in to the back of the net. Before the karate kick, Damir Krylak would basically put this game away in the 72nd minute as he scored from Rusnak and Toya, and that's the final score of this game, as RSL, big victory and big 3 points against the Galaxy in this game. Shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 7 that the Galaxy had, 6 shots on goal compared to 1 that the Galaxy had, 5 shots off target compared to 3 that the Galaxy had, 2 shots out of block compared to 3 that the Galaxy had. Possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession. And if you're the Galaxy, there's definitely some concern right now with this team, because for the past couple of games, they have not looked good whatsoever and kind of started to revert back to their MLS's back term and kind of form where they just struggle in terms of scoring goals, and that their defense didn't really look look well in this game too. So yeah, they need to of course figure out in the next one if they want to snap out of this mini free game winless run that they're in. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 3 games that is going to be happening out of this crazy 13 game action in a single night of MLS action. But yeah, moving on in terms of the next match is Nashville. So as I said, coming into this game for Nashville, this was a good opportunity to get all 3 points against a lowly DC side. And they did exactly that by getting all 3 points against DC United. Although they did kind of got a little bit help with the fact that DC was down to 10 men for the entire part of the second half. And that they could have scored more goals if they were a little bit more clinical in this game. Now, in the first half, Godoy had a chance to give DC, or not DC, but Nashville a chance to get the opening goal. But unfortunately, his shot from the free kick just went high after it took a bit of a deflection. Gressel did had a shot for 22 yards out, but of course, unfortunately hits it wide, and that was really one of the rare chances that DC United would have in this game. Before Rios, really for the most part of this game, looked like he was snake bitten because he of course hits a shot wide for about 20 yards out, and then he was a victim of Hamid, who I thought Hamid was really the only reason why DC was, at least for the most part, in this game, and he kept this game to 0-0 as long as possible, as he was able to deny Rios from close range during this sequence. Before, Rios clearly should have scored in this sequence in the 44th minute when the ball was coming in and he was 3 yards out from basically, they just tapped it into the back of the net, but he didn't make any contact to the ball, and therefore he had a glorious chance that unfortunately he missed. Now, as I mentioned, DC United went down to 10 men for the entire part of the second half, and that's because Knaus would get his second yellow card right on the stroke of halftime. And coming into the second half, you have a feeling that Nashville was going to really push to get that opening goal, and DC was going to go with their classic kind of tactics, which is just kind of sit back and hope that they can play to a 0-0 draw. Although 7 minutes into the second half, they almost got a surprising lead in this game when Ola Kamara had a chance to head it in from about 4 yards out, and in some way he probably should have done better in terms of that, but unfortunately he hits it high over the bar from 4 yards out. Then Hamid was back to his goalkeeping duty when he was able to deny Johnston from long range, before he made probably the best save of the night when he was able to rob Wynn with just an incredible post save. I mean, Alan Wynn put so much power in terms of that header, but some cat-like reflexes from Bill Hamid was able to cap out. But as I said, as much as Hamid was doing his best to try to keep this game at 0-0, Nashville was eventually going to get that breakthrough, and that breakthrough finally happened in the 70th minute. And of all players that I think deserve to get that breakthrough, it has to be Rios. I mean, as I said, he was kind of snake bit with some of the chances that he missed in this game, but this time he wouldn't miss this chance, as he would score from Rodney and Johnston to give Nashville a 1-0 lead, and that is all Nashville need to secure all 3 points against DC United. As the shots in this game, 16 shots compared to 4 that DC United has, 5 shots on goal compared to 1 that DC had, 8 shots off target compared to 3 that DC had, 3 shots out of block compared to none that DC had, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession. And that for Nashville, at least they're not one of a couple of teams from this week's action that missed their chances throughout the game and come back to regret it at the end of it, as they were able to at least take one of the many chances they had to get all 3 points. And for DC United, you know, after the game, Ben Olsen said that this team was full of cowards, and yeah, that probably is not the right thing to say to a team that you can clearly see that the players are not playing for Ben Olsen, and that, again, if you want to know who exactly is going to be the next head coach that is going to be on the chopping block, well, I think Ben Olsen might be the one that could be on the chopping block, although it's either probably between him or Almeida as the one that could be on the chopping block. But since it seemed like the Quakes are doing the definition of insanity, I feel like Olsen will potentially be the one that is going to be the next one to be fired this season. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Cascadia Derby, and for the first time in 6 meetings, the home team actually won the Cascadia Derby, and this was another one of those games where, yeah, the loser of this game will be kicking themselves in terms of how many chances that they miss. And in many ways, the Seattle Sounders, just like some other of these teams that weren't able to take their chances in this game, that's pretty much the reason why they weren't able to get the victory into this one. But I thought for the first 5 minutes, the pace of this game was really good, and that both teams were having some good, decent chances, and that it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Seattle versus LAFC game, where for majority part of the first half, it was a very fast-paced kind of game with chances coming in from both ends. But unfortunately, this time for the Sounders, they were the one that weren't able to get the opening goal, although they had a chance to do it in the 9th minute, but Steve Clark, who was excellent in this game, was able to rob Ruidíaz there before Jimmy Chara would score from above the seat to make it 1-0 in favor of the Timber. Little did we know that would actually be the only goal that was scored in this game, because despite the fact that the Sounders started to control this game and had a bunch of chances, most of those chances usually is them getting into the final third, and either they just missed the target or it's just kind of a slow roller shot to Steve Clark, who easily claimed that as part of a save that he had in this game. Now, in the 35th minute, Leerdam did have a chance to get the equalizer for the Sounders, but I have no idea why he decided to not shoot from 7 yards out, but instead of unselfishly feed the ball to Ruidíaz. I mean, I understand that, you know, when you're a defender and you are in the box, and you usually are reluctant to shoot, but instead feed it to your striker to basically puts it into the back of the net. But this is kind of one of those rare sequences where I feel like Leerdam and the center back clearly need to shoot in this sequence, because he was allowed to. Well, he was given space to allow to shoot that one, and if he would have just shot that one instead of just playing toward Ruidíaz from a bit of a tight angle, I feel like the Sounders could have had their equalizer up until that point. Now, in the second half, speaking of Ruidíaz, he was very lucky to not get a red card in this instant, because it looked like he definitely kicked out Bonilla in that sequence, and whenever you see a player decide to kick out a player like that, that is going to be an automatic red card. But fortunately for Ruidíaz, when they look at VAR, they said that it was only a yellow card that he has received. And again, I feel like he got very lucky in this game. And maybe because this is the Cascadia Derby and the referee kind of don't want to ruin this game with a red card in such a big game like that. That's why Ruidíaz, of course, got away with one here. If this was any other game, that clearly should have been a red card. But I'm pretty sure the referee, you know, red card in these kind of big games, that is something that I think referee are reluctant to trying to show it. So therefore, that is probably maybe the valid reason why this shouldn't have been a red card instead of just being a yellow card. Now again, the Sounders had a lot of chances in the second half, but again, it was mostly those weak shots that they put in the box that was easily handled by Steve Clark, and that sometimes when they do have some big strong shot, it usually just kind of blazes over the bar. But as we head to the last 10 minutes of the game, you can definitely kind of feel a little bit of some tense kind of environment, especially from the Timbers fan base, knowing the fact that, oh god, here we go, we're into that period where this is usually where we concede a lot of our goal this season, and it seemed like we're going to do it again in this one. But thankfully, that was not the case. They were able to hang on in this game to get a 1-0 victory. And the shots in this game, 19 shots compared to 9 that the Timbers had, 6 shots on goal compared to 2 that the Timbers had, 10 shots off target compared to 4 that the Timbers had. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 33% possession compared to 67% possession. And with this win for the Portland Timbers, they're actually now up to second in the Western Conference. That's how crazy the Western Conference is right now, where you could be slumping right now near the bottom part of the table, but as long as you get maybe a win or two and see other team kind of stumble during during a match week, you can really rise yourself up in the Western Conference, and that, in other words, the Western Conference is pretty logjam in terms of all the teams that is in the top and at the bottom of the table. And for the Seattle Sounders, again, they're going to be kicking themselves. The fact that they clearly should have won this game, or at least get a point out of this game with all those effort that they had in this game and all the chances that they unfortunately couldn't put away. But moving on into the last game of this crazy 13-game midweek action is the Vancouver Whitecaps. So, coming into this game, I knew that this was going to be tough for the Whitecaps, knowing the fact that, yes, I know in the last couple of games they have looked decent and that their defense wasn't just giving up chances left and right and giving up goals for fun. But this was a game where that defense is going to face probably one of the toughest team to trying to not give up goals, and that, of course, is LAFC. And it turns out that was not. That turns out that defense basically gone back to their early part of phase one, and that in many ways what we saw in this game was kind of something similar to what we saw in the Sounders versus Quakes game just 2 weeks ago. Because 2 minutes into this game, Jakovic would score from the header from Rodriguez to give LAFC a 1-0 lead before BWP would score a spectacular overhead goal to make it 2-0 in favor of LAFC. And at that point, yeah, I felt like this is going to be a long night for the Vancouver Whitecaps, because it looked like the route was definitely on up until that point. 6 minutes later, BWP would score another goal to make it 3-0 in favor of LAFC. And again, this one was very similar to the last one that he scored, an overhead kick to put it into the back of the net, before Vesinovic would score an own goal in the 15th minute. And BWP must be angry about this, because he felt like this should have been his goal and that he would have got a hat-trick and probably score one, if not the fastest hat-trick in MLS history. But they said that Vesinovic unfortunately touched this last, and therefore for this one is going to be an own goal. And it was 4-0 in favor of LAFC at that point. And the one record that LAFC did get in this game is that this is the fastest that any team in MLS history have been able to score 4 goals to start the game. And then in the 33rd minute, Diego Rossi would score from Marc-Anthony Kaye to make it 5-0 in favor of LAFC. And this was also right around the same time when the Quakes gave up that 5th goal in the first half against the Seattle Sounders. So, coincidence? I think not. I think this is just one of those games where you feel like this could get really ugly very quickly. Now, it was almost 6-0 in favor of LAFC, and LAFC almost broke the record for the most goals scored in the first half. But unfortunately, Rossi was just being a little bit too casual when he was going one-on-one with the keeper. And it's easy to try to be a little bit too casual and trying to be too cute when you are 5-0 up to that point. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to put it away, and that the Vancouver Whitecaps, at least momentarily, was able to spare from being on the wrong end of history, which is obviously giving up the most goal in the first half. Well, technically, they're already on the wrong end of history by giving up that many goals to start the game, but at least they're not, again, on the wrong end of history by giving up the most goal in the first half. Now, in the second half, the Whitecaps, if there's one thing that there is some positive coming out of this game, is that at least they show some effort, even though they were down 5-0. And that the difference between this game that the Whitecaps play to the one that the Quakes play a couple of weeks ago is that in the second half, for the first 15 minutes of the game, the Quakes defense, they just continued to give up and continued to leak goals left and right. Whereas this Whitecaps defense, even though that team is still down 5-0, you can still see the effort was putting in there, and that it was evident in the 63rd minute when Meredith was able to rob Mosvatsky there. Meredith actually got the start in this game, and even if Thomas Hassel was in goal in this, I don't think he could have saved any of these goals, because Meredith, I do feel bad for him, where this is one of his rare start, and that he just got completely hung out to dry by a Whitecaps defense that basically did not exist in this game. But eventually it would be 6-0 as the Whitecaps unfortunately score another own goal. This time it's Andy Rose the victim of the own goal, as that made it 6-0 in favor of LAFC. It was almost 7-0 in favor of LAFC when Blessing, of course, hits the post. But at the end of the day, you know, again, if there's another positive that the Whitecaps had in this game, is that at least they did not break the record or at least join a pretty shameful list of teams that gave up 7 goals in a game and didn't break their own team record in terms of giving up 7 goals in a single game. But overall, in terms of shots in this game, 19 shots compared to 7 that the Whitecaps had. 11 shots on goal compared to no shot on target for the Whitecaps in this game. 2 shots off target compared to 4 that the Whitecaps had. 6 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that the Whitecaps had in possession-wise. 65% possession compared to 35% possession. And I know Whitecaps fans are going to be angry about this game, and rightfully so. I mean, anytime when you see your team getting embarrassed like that, that is just unacceptable. But hopefully they can, of course, move on into the next game and learn some lesson in this one and try not to do what the Quakes are doing right now, which is after a big loss like this, they don't even learn their lesson and just suffer another big loss a couple of weeks after that. Whereas for LAFC, you know, it's great the fact that they were able to score 6 goals, but you got to keep in mind, this is the Vancouver Whitecaps, and this is kind of a little bit more to the fact that it was because the Whitecaps defense is being hot garbage than more to do with the fact that it seemed like this LAFC team is back on track. And we'll see whether or not if they can, of course, continue that momentum heading into the next game. Oh wait, I'm just kidding. They probably will, because guess what's the next game for LAFC? Yeah, that's right. It's the San Jose Earthquakes, and you know, if they can score 6 goals against the Whitecaps, and that if they feel angry the fact that they, of course, they didn't break the record for the most goals scored in a game, well, the next game they have a chance to do that. And did I also tell you that that game is at Bank of California Stadium too? So yeah, what I mean is, let's see if LAFC, if they want to look like the team that is considered the best team in the league, let's see what happens if they do face against some real decent team, unlike the joke that is the San Jose Earthquakes, and also what the Whitecaps is right now in the Western Conference. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of this 13-game action. Yes, we did it, guys. We have reached the end of these crazy action of MLS, where we had 13 games, and that was kind of even a bit of a historic night with how many games that happened in a single night. But the good news is, at least on the weekend's action, we're not going to have 13 games that's going to be taking place in a single night. But we do have 11 games that's going to be taking place on Sunday, and I believe there's only going to be 2 that's going to happen on Saturday. But until then, I will, of course, talk to you guys about those games, and I'll talk to you guys about those games on Friday when I do the preview. And that I am going to do the news of the week video a little bit later tonight, but I'll probably do it a little bit later, probably around the night time, because this video will probably take a little bit long to try to upload, because the fact that I had to switch the board. And usually when I switch the board in terms of doing these review, those videos are going to be upload longer than when I don't switch the board. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.